And welcome to another edition of Gloves Off with Ray Boom Boom Mancini. I'm your co-host, Steve K9 Kim. We are here from Hollywood Smoke in Santa Monica. The star of the show, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Ray, the fight that me and you swore up and down because we're boxing experts and we know all.
Of course.
Bernard Hopkins would never fight Sergey Kovalev. It's too much risk. He's too young. He's too big. He's too hard-hitting. And that plate of crow tasted really good because November 8th, they are fighting Atlantic City for what I believe is the light heavyweight supremacy. Sorry to Adonis Stevenson. You basically gave up that title. When it comes to Sergey Kovalev against Bernard Hopkins, I think the key man is John David Jackson, the trainer of Kovalev, who back in 1997 fought Bernard Hopkins. That's how long this guy has been around. If you were John David, what are the 2 or 3 things you tell the Krusher as you go into a fight with the alien?
Well, first of all, I don't think they would have taken the fight if John David didn't know the key to beating Bernard. And when he spoke about it, he said, "We're going to make him fight at our pace. We're not going to let him fight at his pace." That's the key. When you got a guy who's 49, you got to make him fight at a 20-something or early 30-year-old pace. You don't let him fight at a 49-year-old pace. Now, I also want to say this. A couple of things I've tweeted have gone viral, and I love B-Hop. He's a good guy. He's a freak of nature. He's a physical specimen. When I said, I made a quote, I wouldn't walk across the street to watch him fight. And I meant, what I meant by that, I'm going to clarify, specify, rectify. Meaning that he's not fan-friendly anymore. No, if he ever was, because he was a counterpuncher from the jump. But now he's not going to engage. He's not going to go toe-to-toe. He's not going to get in a firefight with Kovalev. He's going to do what he does best. He's going to shuck and jive and distract, and he's going to create, smoke and mirrors.
Negate,
of course,
deflect. Yeah.
Smoke and mirrors. And he'll do everything to befuddle this guy and then throw a couple punches and screw him up and turn him, tie him up, whatever he does. That's what I mean. But, I mean, he's not going to get hurt. He's not going to allow himself to get hurt. And, I love B-Hop, but if Kovalev goes out there and makes it a firefight, which I think John David knows, makes it a firefight, he's got just too much firepower for B-Hop.
Yeah, so we want to clarify this. Ray Mancini loves everything about Hopkins except his actual fight. And by the way, I happen to agree. Now, here's the other issue. And the one thing I've always said about Bernard Hopkins, at least the late stages, Bernard Hopkins, when you watch his fights, he's a type of guy you study, but you're not entertained by.
Right.
And this is the one thing that I don't think trainers teach enough. They always teach head movement and keeping your hands up. I think Hopkins does as good a job of hiding that chin on his front shoulder as well as anybody, and angling his shoulders and not giving a clean surface. With that said, if you're Kovalev and you're facing this guy and you're a right-handed fighter, do you aim for the shoulder and beat him from the shoulders down in the beginning and just keep in constant contact with him? Is that the first thing you set?
Well, exactly. When you're fighting, like when I used to fight guys, I used to jab for the chest because I was just trying to find the distance. I wasn't because that's my jab. I was not a guy who's known for his jab per se, but I want to touch him. Then go to the body, go to hook. If I'm Kovalev, yeah, tap that shoulder, tap that chest, whatever's closest to you. Then from there, once you tap that and know you can find him in range, then you go to work because you're gonna find the chin. You're gonna have to find it through combination. You ain't gonna. It's not gonna be sticking out for you. So yeah, touch the shoulder, touch the chest, whatever. Hit him in the hip, whatever you get close, whatever you can find to touch him. You find your range, then go to work.
The one thing about Kovalev, again, he's an Eastern European, vast amateur background. I think he has an underrated front side. I think he controls distance pretty well with his jab. How important is it for him to keep distance and not get smothered on the inside by Hopkins?
That's everything. That's B-Hop's whole game. Well, look, B-Hop wins, it's ugly. When he loses, it's ugly. It's always an ugly fight. And that's no disrespect. That's what's made him successful through the years. That's how do you keep from a guy making it ugly? You keep him on the outside. You got to keep him on the outside. So just what you said, Kovalev's got to use that range. And John knows this. John David knows this. Keep on the end of the jab. Like I said, tap him in the shoulder, tap the hip, bend, but you got to come behind it with something. You throw that right hand, throw a lot of right hands. Look, B-Hop, again, doesn't want to get into a firefight. And if you make it where he smothers you and ties you up, the judges could see who's fighting, who's trying to make it a fight, and who's tying the other guy up.
Yeah. The one thing about Kovalev that I think he cannot fall prey to, and I've seen this with either Bibet Shumanov or Tavoris Cloud or other guys were really limited like Karo Murat. He has a way of really slowing down the tempo and playing ball control. I think one thing Kovalev cannot be afraid of is to look foolish in missing punches. If you miss 3 or 4, throw 5 or 6. I think he has to work in volume. I think he has to set a very quick tempo. But with that being said, Bernard Hopkins has always likened himself to Satchel Paige, the old guy that can still get guys out. But he's 49. When does that run out, Ray?
Again, look, Archie Moore did it for a long time. Jersey Joe did it for a long time. A lot of these guys, but you could see that they still had the defense. They had the the roller shot, but they didn't have the firepower to come back. Now, if we're going to talk about a basketball terminology, you got to make it a Mike Antonio running gun. You make it exciting, make it an offensive game.
Up tempo.
94
feet.
Right.
Yes.
You don't worry about the defense because your offense is your defense. Yeah. That's what Kovalev got to do. Throw punches in bunches. Fire. He keep doing that jab. Keep it in jab. Right hands. Ties him up. Because I don't believe that Kovalev thinks that B-Hop could hurt him.
Yeah.
He should. That's how the mentality should have. And B-Hop's never been known as a big puncher. He hits you a lot. But you got to keep him at the end of the punches. Make it a firefight. Let's exchange punches. I'll trade mine for yours if that's what you want to do, and I think I'll come out on top. That's what he has to do. He has to make an up-tempo, action-packed fight.
Yeah, and for the record, it's the Mike D'Antonio from Phoenix. So let's get down to the brass tacks.
From Phoenix, yeah, we didn't have the old guys.
The Laker thing didn't work out. Okay, let's get to the brass tacks. Who are you picking, Hopkins or Kovalev?
As much as I personally like B-Hop as a person, and he's one of the greatest champions we ever had, I got to go with Kovalev at this stage.
I agree. I think Kovalev's youth and I think his underrated boxing IQ alongside John David Jackson, it'll be all hail Hopkins, long live the king, but I do think we will have a new light heavyweight champion. Again, all due respect to Adonis Stevenson. That's it for another edition of Gloves Off with Ray Boom Boom Mancini. This is Steve Kim saying goodbye, everybody.